I decided to do a video of running through how I master and how I use Ozone to correct some problems in my mix. So what I did is I grabbed a song and took off all of the EQs, took off all of the level adjustments. I used utility for that. I basically took it all off so that I could start fresh and that it sounds kind of bad. And I'm going to show you what I look for, listen for when I'm mastering. Note that this is going to be a quick run through. This is not meant to be a be-all end-all mastering tutorial, how to master definitively. This is just a run through for people who don't know what they're doing, don't know what mixing or mastering is, and just need some help to get started. So for a little slight backstory, what I like to do is mix while I master, meaning that instead of EQing the master track later on, maybe if I have too much bass, instead of EQing it down, I would just go back and remix the track. So I would turn the bass down or turn maybe some of the higher frequency instruments up if I needed some more high frequency content. If something's peaking at a particular spot, maybe instead of using a multi-band compressor, I might find the part that is peaking and put a compressor on that track. So let's get started. I'm going to start off with some percussion. So this seems to be like most of the percussion, so I'm going to highlight these. Let me see, I adjusted the drum rack first. I tried to put everything back to -12, which is the default. Well, these are all pretty loud. What I'd made is an EQ and utility, so this basically turns it down and EQs it all in one fell swoop. There's no reason we need bass. It's gonna muddy up the mix. Another thing I like to do is when I am mixing, I like to mix with a limiter on and I turn it up. That way, when it comes down to finally mastering, I can just turn the limiter off and I'll have plenty of headroom to work with. So let's turn that limiter on right now. I'm just going to stick it at 10 dB. The amount doesn't necessarily matter. Just so I can hear it better and it's not a super quiet kick. Alright, let's fast forward. Yeah, that's loud. That already has EQ on it. I guess I forgot that one. And I'm going to go back again and probably adjust those later. This is just to get a general idea. Well, that percussive part is only in the beginning, so let's forget about that for now. Work on the reverse too. I guess did I forget that? Oh no, I put it on that one. Okay. Ooh, I'm just gonna turn all those off. I feel like that would make things a lot easier. Now the intro percussion. That's actually not too bad. I know before when I was mastering a track, I had individual utilities with individual level gain adjustments on each of these percussion 1, 2, 3, and 4. But I mean, right now, just a rough listen, it sounds not too bad by itself. And I'll probably adjust it later. Okay, so I'm gonna add the bass. Don't want to take that off. I'll leave it there for now. So I have the bass and the drums worked out right now. Let's go with the ARP. So I'm gonna select these two. I'm gonna do Command L to loop this section. Make sure you put high pass filters on everything, which basically means it's passing the high frequencies and only attenuating the low frequencies. You do not need low frequencies to build up in your mix. Seriously, everything except for bass and drums. So I got a filter on it at that part. That's fine. Actually sounds alright. Let me see, organ stab group. Yeah, we're gonna need these. Let's turn one of them off for now. The reason I put utilities on the individual tracks versus using these faders is because I feel like it's a lot easier and nicer looking if everything's at unity gain. Meaning that all the faders at the very top, if I need to demo something to someone or if I need to show, I could easily just adjust these faders and I know exactly where to put them back to. If I need to automate something, I usually automate these because these go all the way to negative infinity where the faders don't. And, I don't care that it only goes to negative or positive 35 decibels. I really don't need it to go much lower than a few, because that's what I'm doing. I just made this EQ and utility too. I've been meaning to make it for a while. I made it right before this tutorial. It's really going to help me out because I use utility and EQ on every single track. I feel like the whole track could be a little quieter though. Whatever. That's fine for now. Do feel like the bass is a bit much right now. Maybe not quite as much. The build-up groups. Yeah, those are pretty loud. Do not need that. I actually like my risers to be multi-layered at very low levels. I feel like it works out pretty well. Maybe not that low. I'm just gonna throw these on here and then I'll adjust them when I hear them. It's supposed to say cognizant sleep. I forgot I turned that off.
Cognizant sleep.
Okay. Oh, I have another riser too? Wow.
Cognizant sleep. Cognizant sleep.
Cognizant sleep's a bit quiet. Oh, I guess I didn't turn that off.
Cognizant sleep.
Whatever. That's good for now. Voyager glitch bass for the drop. Well, now that everything's kind of sounding together, I'm going to take this limiter off and I'm going to open up Ozone. There it is. Go to the maximizer. Yeah. This stuff's good for now. So a good tip is to go to one of the most busiest parts of your track and try to master from that point, try to limit at that point and make sure you're not going above 6 dB of limiting. That is kind of messed up on my screen. Why can't I see? 5.6. I have two monitors. In this monitor, the resolution's a bit weird sometimes. I can't really see small numbers. Doesn't sound too bad. Oh yeah, let me show you another trick. I know I've talked about this in other videos of mine. What should I do first? Stereo imaging. I want to make sure that the bass is kind of mono, so that's why I'm bringing it down. This is it normally. Not kind of mono, but not quite. I'm just going to bring it down a bit. Because you kind of want bass to be mono, and you're not really going to tell the difference anyway. Yeah, 120 is fine. Okay. So I'm going to the graph to change the way that everything sends to each other. This graph basically shows that first it goes to the exciter, then loudness maximizer, then EQ1, then reverb, blah 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 blah, ends at channel, ends at the EQ2, which is the post equalizer, which I want to use for the purpose of comparing and contrasting other people's songs to my song. So I want to make sure the maximizer is earlier, so I know everything is completely finished when the post equalizer is listening in. Okay, so I just captured that, and it's this yellow one that I'm clicking on and off. These others are Clap is by Wolfgang Gardner, Reward is Cheese, Dead Mouse, Heartbreaker, I think that's Wolfgang Gardner too. Ace from Space, I forget who made that, that's a good song. I had a bunch of other songs, I guess they were deleted somehow. I can load them back on. But what I did was I went to the drop, the loudest point, the most exciting point in the track, and I did this snapshot. And it just basically gave me like a rough EQ curve of what was going on in the song at that time. So what I do is I compare my drops to their drops. That might seem silly, but then again, if you look at it, let me take mine off. If you look at it, these songs are generally along the same line. They have some mid-frequency content that's different, but these are pretty close, you know? So just from looking at this graph, even if you don't have great speakers or headphones, you can still get a general idea of what you want it to sound like. It took me a while to be able to automatically kind of listen for it myself without needing to use this as much, which clearly it sounds already pretty close to what this is. Except for the bass, which I did think the bass was up a bit too high. But I use this as a tool to adjust problems in my own track. If I saw a lot of high frequency content, then I'd know I should probably turn an instrument with high frequency content down. That would probably make it sound better. There's some kind of a peak right here, no idea what that is. Maybe I can take a look into that. But here, let's say from 60 to 100 hertz, it's got to go down. What we can do is we can figure out if that is the bass or if that's the kick. It doesn't look like it's the kick necessarily. The kick is definitely contributing to it though. Let's see, here's the bass line. Yeah, I would say that's definitely the bass line. But the peak here, although there's no peak back there, I feel like I could just move it down a few dB and it would sound better. So I don't need to totally annihilate that peak and get rid of it. I'm going to turn down 3 dB, see what happens. It's down. So that's better sounding. And I have noticed that if I were to play like a track in a club, if I weren't to do that, it does sound overly bassy, where it's just bad to a point, where it's like too much and it just kind of takes away from the rest of the song. But they crank up the bass too loud anyway at clubs. Well, now that I know that part's pretty good, I'm gonna go to part 2.
Sleep.
Actually, let's see what it looks like on the Ozone.
Sleep.
That's actually a pretty straight line. It's missing some mid-frequency content, but that's still not bad.
Sleep.
The song's actually not sounding too bad. Just by itself, it doesn't seem like I need to do a whole lot more work, because a lot of the work is being done by, the sidechain and all the other compressors and things that I have going on in the track. Like, it's already been sculpted around sounding the way I want it even before I started mixing. I just needed basically to adjust the levels in EQ. Some things, like these yellow parts at the end, were all recorded together in the same sitting with the same Moog Voyager. I just maybe slightly adjusted some of the parameters. So really, I don't need to do a whole lot of level adjustment with these, especially since they were purposely manipulated to sound a specific way coming in to my interface when I was recording. The same thing can be said with the ARP, the Mini Brute ARP 1 and 2 that I worked on earlier. A lot of the stuff was already compressed coming in, or has already been EQ'd coming in, kind of how I want it to begin with. So I didn't necessarily have to do a whole lot of work in this video, because a lot of it was already done coming into the box. There's definitely a lot more that could be done. Maybe at this stage what I would do is take a break, because it is sounding fairly well. Come back later, adjust some more things, listen to it again with a fresh ear. I might listen to some music just so I get more comfortable with how random music sounds on my speakers. Or another thing that'll really help your mix out is panning. I don't know if you've noticed, but this song has already been properly panned to how I want it, so that frequencies aren't conflicting. Long story short, you want your bass to generally be around the center, if not exactly on the center, and everything else should be kind of spread out. So if you have two tracks that have both high frequency content, you might want to pan one to the left and the other one to the right, so that way they're not conflicting and like trying to basically talk over one another. Or another thing I'll do is, if a track has a harmony, sometimes I'll duplicate that track and take the upper harmony and pan it to the right, and take the lower harmony and pan it to the left. That way the harmony notes are still harmonizing, they're still playing together, except this way they're more spread out over the sound stage. So what I did here is pretty much round one. From here I would take a break and then come back with a fresh start, a fresh mind, and continue doing what I'm doing. Except this time I would be adjusting maybe 1 or a half of a dB at a time, just trying to fit everything into its place and make it work together. I would also check it out on various speakers and headphones. Try it out in your car, on your radio, or at a friend's house. Maybe someone else you know happens to have studio monitors. But just as long as you get the idea of what I'm trying to teach here, then I've done my job. Let me quick open the actual version of the song. Don't save. Probably should have saved it. So this is the actual version of my finished mastered song. You can see even on the master track I have a lot more going on than just the Ozone. And each track is going to be different. Like the bass line, I took away some of the low end bass and boosted the high end just because I think I wanted a little bit more bite in the upper mid range where I could actually hear some things going on. Maybe more presence or whatever. I hope this video helped you out. If it did, please let me know if this was beneficial. I also do one-on-one lessons over Skype or Google Hangouts if you're interested. And for a very small fee, I will mix and master your music and bring it up to the standards that you would expect from any professional track. For more tutorials on Ableton or mastering, mixing, engineering, anything like that, check out my channel. If you like the song that I used, that's my band Soma. I'll put some links in the description. It's SOMAAA. But thanks everybody for watching. I really do appreciate it. I really appreciate the feedback and all the nice things you guys say. It really helps me out to do these tutorials. And that's it. I'll see you guys next time. Never stop making music. Or in this case, mixing and mastering music.